I'm kind of wondering why I haven't had this in the bag for weeks with how I'm hitting this down here. I think I've missed the fairway once. How does the PXG 0311 Gen 6 driver perform? I've got my hands on one to find out. So I've actually been down to the Drift, which is PXG's UK fitting centre, to be fitted for this. So I do know what goes on with this club already. And to be honest, the data there was pretty impressive. They managed to get me swinging this at 101 mile an hour, which is definitely a lot faster than I'm used to seeing. And it was interesting how like testing different shafts, moving around the weights in the head kind of got that swing speed up. It got me to 150 ball speed, which is really quick for me. But obviously those numbers are on the range, not necessarily out on the golf course. So we want to see how it performs here now. Now, PXG have made some changes to this model this year, and what I really like is they've gone for a much more neutral crown on the club. So before they've been a bit eccentric with some of their designs, which to be honest I didn't mind, but I think it cuts a lot of the market out. Sometimes people just want something traditional, so this kind of matte black crown is going to suit much more people. This is actually carbon fibre this year, which it wasn't before, so that's pretty interesting. It saves weight at the top, means they can move it to more of the extremes, give you a bit more MOI, a bit more forgiveness. I've got this with a helium UST a million, if that's how you say it, shafting. It's 59 grams and it's stiff. So not massively different from what I'd use. I really like the fact it's like matte black. I think it matches in really nicely with the head and the black grip. I just think the whole thing, it just looks like a super cool build. So you kind of want it to go well before you even hit it. Is that allowed to be a thing? Is that biased? I don't know. I just think this looks super good. Now, the interesting thing about this is I can hit up on the golf ball a lot. Like I can launch it high. So when I was at PXG, I was like, please, please can you just give me something that goes lower, because if I get something high and spinny in the wind, it doesn't go anywhere. So this is a 7.5 degree head. That's like the lowest loft they do, which I think is really good because lots of brands don't offer this. Now, since then, I've started hitting the ball a little bit lower. I don't hit up on it as much. So in the fitting, I was hitting 6 up. Now I'm at about 2. So I have lofted this up a little bit to 9. And just to see how that goes. I think that suits me a little bit more, but I like the fact I can move this around. If I get to a point where I am hitting up on it loads and really trying to go for that, I can loft it back down again. So let's see how it goes. Dead straight down the middle, which is always nice. To be honest, like I've been struggling a bit with my driver recently in the sense that it's just been going everywhere. Don't know that feeling. I'm mainly left, to be honest, but also I can hit it right as a counter. So I quite like the fact that because I'm changing the loft of this with the hosel, I can tweak the club face and kind of know which way it's going to go. So for me, that 7.5 lofting it up to 9 closes the club face a little bit. So it means I can just know it's not going to go right and accept like my miss is left and it's kind of taking one side out. So I think that's really comforting. Just like high bombs. What I actually like about this as well is this is the more players model, but there's also an XP, which is a little bit more forgiving. So they've got those 2 options there. So if you want something that's ultra forgiveness, you can go into that. But what I really like about this is they've got a new face on this and it just feels really soft off the face. Can't quite describe it, but it just feels like a really nice strike all the time. It doesn't feel really harsh and it gives you a really nice sound. Like sometimes you can get something that's a bit too tinny and that's not like this at all. Honestly, all of these have gone within like 15 yards of each other, which is pretty nice. Okay, that felt nice. Let's see what the numbers are. 97 mile an hour club head speed. I'm not going at it quite as much as I was in my fitting, but that's given me a 232.7 yard carry for a 262 total. And also what I like is the spin's good, so that's just under 2,200 RPM spin, so very workable. And I do think like sometimes the danger is with any kind of driver, people are just chasing like that pure ball speed number and not looking at like the spin and the height and the launch angle of the shot as well. For me, that's performing in a window where it's not going to go too high, it's not going to get stuck up in the wind and like flail back towards me, but also it's kind of controllable when it lands, so it's not going to kick and just run out through a fairway and end up in trouble. So you always kind of want that kind of balance in the middle. Now, what I also think is really cool about this is if we look on the sole here, we've got these 3 adjustable weights, which I just didn't realise how much you can change the club's performance in terms of weights, but also like swing weight. And so when I was down at PXG, they were really specific about what swing weight the club is, what I prefer it to feel like do I want the club head to feel heavy? Is it better if I feel it light? Trying all different options and seeing which one gets me the most swing speed and gets me the best like dispersion and quality of shots. Now you can also move these around for shot shape, so if you want to draw a little bit more, fade it a little bit more, you can move them around. You can also add more or less weight in the back to kind of control that launch angle as well. These are on the perimeter because it gives you more forgiveness, so you want the most weight around this edge to boost that MOI. I mean, if you hit it not off the centre, we never do that, right? It's going to be a little bit of a better shot. If you do say really want this lighter, you've got to think a little bit about that. Might reduce a little bit of forgiveness, but it's actually working with your fitter to dial this in really how you want it. So there's loads of options here if it's by hosel, all the different loft types they have, and then also the weights on the bottom to get this set up just perfect for you. Now it's a bit windy today. That's full on 230, so it's still gone 259 total, but in my fitting, I got one that carried out at 241, so there's definitely a lot of distance potential in this. What I like is it's pretty consistent, and actually the only shots I've really carried lower than 230 are ones that I've caught slightly high on the face, so it's definitely my fault. Another thing that I think is interesting about this, which will suit more of your player, is that you can set this hosel to flat, which I know a lot of better players like, so it means they can take like that left shot out. So that's another really interesting thing to consider because you can't always control lie angle with the hosel. Do I have any criticisms of this? Not really. I do think I've obviously tested this in all the different settings off the course, and when I had it just set on 7.5, which is kind of the standard, I would say the miss, if anything, is more slightly bright. So that's something to bear in mind if you're someone who doesn't want to see a fade. Maybe going like down a loft and then lofting it up and shutting the face is a good way to go. But obviously you can do that with the weights on the sole as well. So I think it's just one of those things where you really want to get fit for it. I know I say that all the time, but it is important. That's why I keep saying it. There's so many options to customize this. So if you want to get the best performance out of this and like the really good numbers that I'm seeing, it's definitely worth doing that. All in all, this is a really strong performing golf club. Definitely worth checking out this year. Might be sneaking into my golf bag.